Hello everyone, welcome to the Ginger Snaps here's Month of Horror-WEEN, where I will be discussing the Halloween franchise. On this episode, I will be taking a look at Halloween 2, which was released in 1981 and was directed by Rick Rosenthal. After the stunning success of Halloween and countless imitators coming right after this, in 1981 it was finally given the green light to finally have Halloween 2. John Carpenter was originally scheduled to direct this movie, but after being sued and was forced to do this movie only as a producer and practically a writer at this rate, he couldn't do this movie, so Rick Rosenthal stepped in. And essentially, they wanted to make this movie a true to form to Halloween, but it's kind of hard to do so when you had multiple imitators come out and you can't do the same thing twice. So, the movie is vastly different in such a weird way. And of course, as we all know, it's very beloved. It's one of the things that makes a lot of people still sit there to this day and say, why did they have to get rid of Halloween 2 from the timeline? Well, that's what I'm here to discuss. So let's take a look at Halloween 2. For the story of this movie, of course, a lot of movies, when it comes to sequels of this nature, it would take place maybe months, weeks, hell, even years after the events of what happened in the previous film. But in this film, they chose to do something different. They decided to make it the same night of 1978. The events after Michael was shot off the balcony by Dr. Loomis and then disappeared. So, of course, with a story like this, Michael is roaming around, Dr. Loomis is still pursuing him, Laurie Strode has been transferred to the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and all chaos ensues after this rate. Now, when a story like this, it was smart to not go a year after or anything like that. The fact that they decided to base it on the same night is a genius idea. If they actually had done the movie probably the year after. Because it kind of shows that this is definitely not 1978 anymore. I mean, as we all know, Jamie Lee Curtis is wearing a wig. And her every hairstyle in that movie is definitely 80s. So, you know, it kind of shows. But nonetheless, the story is very smart for what it is. And, you know, to take place on the same night makes it a great continuation from the first film. When it comes to the characters of this movie, there is no shortage of them. There's a lot of actual interesting characters to a degree. And, of course, we have the return of Nancy Stevens, who plays Marion Chambers, kind of right at the end of the film. We do have Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasence, of course, because you can't make a sequel to Halloween without Dr. Loomis, especially if it takes place the same night. Now, of course, we also have Jamie Lee Curtis coming back as Laurie Strode in this movie, which I find a lot of people got annoyed with in a weird way, or some people kind of don't get annoyed in a weird way. I will get to that real quick here, but of course, Dr. Loomis seems like he has done a lot more in this role for this film than he did in the previous film, where he is really hunting down Michael Myers, even to the point where they mistaken Michael Myers for some kid who's actually just walking around on Halloween with a candy bag, which it turns out to be, Ben Tramer. Rest in peace, Ben Tramer. Rest in peace. But, of course, as we all know, he even goes to a school, sees Sam Hain, or Samhain, as we all know it's Samhain, not Sam Hain, written on a school wall and whatnot. But, of course, he is trying to understand Michael in a weird way, but which is kind of weird. He always kept saying that Michael was evil, and then shot him 6 times, which he makes it abundantly clear in this movie. He shot him 6 times, even though it was 7 times. But then all of a sudden he's shocked that he got up and walked away. There's a weird transition to that. And of course, it's just kind of weird how that works out. But at the end, Dr. Loomis, he's still that great protagonist that we all care and love, and does very well in this film, no matter what. Jamie Lee Curtis obviously returns as Laurie Strode in this movie, who is now transported to Haddonfield Memorial Clinic to receive treatment for her wounds. Now, of course, as we all know in this movie, she is practically in a bed in the hospital throughout the whole duration of the film. Now, I know a lot of people defend her on that. Well, yeah, look what she went through in the first film. Yeah, well, look what she fucking went through in Halloween Kills. It was a lot worse, and y'all fucking shit on that for her being in the fucking bed of a hospital throughout the whole fucking movie, but you defend this one? Anywho, as for this one, it kind of seemed it was a little wasted at this rate, but they had to make some sort of tie into something with her character, which I will address later on. But of course, when it comes to her performance in this movie, it's kind of bland in a way because of the fact that she is essentially doped up on medication. She's in this bed the whole entire time. She's questioning why this guy came after her, and then when she sees him again and has to run for her life, that's when it's the same thing as the first film, but now it's just more magnified in a weird kind of way where it's just like, okay, well, yeah, she just kind of went through this twice, and it's all kind of familiar for me. But nonetheless, Jamie Lee Curtis still gives it her all in this fucking movie, even though she really, really, really hated that wig she was wearing. Now, of course, it's not a Halloween movie without Michael Myers, this time not portrayed by Nick Castle, but instead portrayed by Dick Warlock. And he does a very good job playing the Shape himself, but it's very obvious that it's a different portrayal because of the fact that I think it just really hurts that it's supposed to take place the same night. So why is Michael now moving a lot more slower? Maybe it has something to do with the fact that he fell on his back from falling off the balcony, or, I don't know, getting shot 6 times. But it's also the roboticness of his movement. I don't know what it is with that, but Dick Warlock portrayed Michael differently. I don't know if he was informed, or maybe he just had it in his head that Michael is a slow-walking serial killer. I don't know, who knows? But other than that, Michael Myers' portrayal in this movie, aside from all that, still very menacing no matter what. But there's another thing that also Dick Warlock had changed, which was the mask itself. Now, it is very much the same mask, it's just his head was wider. So it takes on a new shape, no pun intended, or very much intended. And of course, the fact that it's been sitting under Deborah Hill's bed and she was a heavy smoker, which I don't believe that at all. I don't think the smoke could get under her bed and then make it yellow. Smoke kind of rises, Anywho, other than that, the mask does look different in this movie. So that's why when people do their rankings of the masks, they always rank this in a different category, which I understand. It's its own kind of thing in a weird way. But of course, nonetheless, Dick Warlock's performance is still a very memorable performance as Michael Myers. I mean, being the stuntman who, decided to do that burn scene at the end, good shit. But at the same time, it's very robotic. It's very slow. I mean, I feel like Michael Myers should be hurrying the hell up to get to kill Laurie instead of taking his sweet time still. I don't know. It's just me, I think. I don't know. It's just me. But nonetheless, still a good performance. Michael Myers still doing Michael Myers things. Still very good. Then, of course, we have multiple other characters in this movie that some people tend to actually like. Like, for example, Bud. That guy who sings Amazing Grace, come sit on my face. Don't make me cry. I need your pie. Come on. Like, that's a classic line. He's just kind of the wise guy, womanizer in a kind of weird way. And then, of course, you got Jimmy, who essentially is very caring for Laurie. He kind of knows her a weird way because her little brother was babysat by her or goes to the same school as her. But also at the same time, he kind of is a little creepy in a weird way. And then, of course, you have other kind of filler characters at this rate. I mean, Sheriff Brackett returns, but he is immediately taken out of the picture. Not by a death, but more along the lines of finding out his daughter had died. And of course, there's other characters out there. Mrs. Alves, who is essentially the bitch nurse or the bitch head doctor. You have Mr. Garrett, who is the security guard. And you have all these other characters, but for a fact you can't really get more attached to these characters that much. There's barely much development with these ones because you practically already know these guys are going to fucking die. They're just here for a body count, which also doesn't help because of all the imitators. There was more deaths in all those movies. Friday the 13th, for example. There were more deaths in those movies, so they had to ramp up the body count in this one. So you don't get much time to spend knowing a character. So that's what kind of happens when the slasher genre is revived or kickstarted because of Halloween, and all the imitators try to one-up Halloween, which causes this one to really kind of go down in a weird way when it comes to characters. Another thing that this movie had changed also was the amount of blood they showed and the amount of gore in the kills. Of course, all these imitators, Friday the 13th, My Bloody Valentine, all these films would come out, Terror Train, so on and so forth, which amped up their gore. So now Halloween 2 couldn't do the same thing as the first Halloween and not show blood, not show more kills. So they were pushed into a corner to change. And it really sticks out. Now, of course, what do I think of all the kills? The kills are absolutely really fucking good. I mean, you have the only kill that's killed with a knife in the beginning, where there's the random girl who gets killed in her home, right? And then, of course, when it finally gets to the hospital, you have, Mr. Garrett who gets hit in the head with a hammer. Mrs. Elves bleeds to death. Again, why didn't they show that kill? I don't fucking know. And then, of course, you have the 2 needle kills. You have the waterboarding kill. That famous, where she's in the hot tub and he fucking dunks the shit out of her. Which, I still kind of want to know, did the heat kill her? Or was it the drowning? I don't know. He keeps lifting her up all the fucking time. But nonetheless, a lot more blood is shown in this movie, and a lot more gore and a lot more kills. So, it's really much a big, big difference from the first film. But that's because of the fact that Halloween was pushed into that corner. Because all these fucking imitators, Friday the 13th, all these films that came out. That's why if they decided not to show more blood, yeah, it probably wouldn't have been received or liked very much. Then, of course, we all have the big reveal in this movie where we find out from Marion Chambers that there was a secret file on Michael Myers that Dr. Loomis didn't even know. And that secret file contained the fact that Laurie Strode was Michael Myers' sister. So that's the reason why he's after her, because he killed one sister 15 years prior, and now he's back to kill the other. This, of course, is the one thing that is heavily debated in the whole Halloween franchise. In the first film, it is obvious they are not brother and sister. They are not related. But the reason why this was put in there, as we all know, John Carpenter was writing the script with a 6-pack in his gut, and beer, I should say, and didn't know what to do. And he decided, fuck it, I'm going to make them related. I'm going to make them brother and sister, which now killed the mystique of Michael Myers hunting her for just no reason. It's not fate. It's not anything like that. It's not just he was obsessed with you, he wanted to kill you, whatever. No, it's because you're my sister. So now it humanized Michael. It made him give him a motive, which no one really understood why that was such a great motive to begin with. We all like the fact, well, some of us like the fact that Michael just kills at random. There's no reasoning for it. I mean, think of it this way. In the first Halloween, he just snapped one night and killed his sister. And then went after these babysitters right after. And now in this one, it's explained that he killed his sister and was about to kill the other one. But even in the first Halloween movie, where is that baby at all? You don't see her at all. So, I don't know. I'm going to just call bullshit on that. So, of course, it just makes no sense to me, personally. I understand why everyone loves the brother-sister angle. I understand it. If you want to go take a trip on that timeline, go ahead. I do it sometimes too. But it did open the floodgates to problems with continuity. And yeah, with that reveal, I don't think a lot of people were really happy with the fact that Michael now had a fucking motive. Now, of course, there are some glaring issues in this movie, which is, one of them being the patientless and understaffed hospital. There are barely any patients in this movie. I mean, aside from Laurie, the newborn babies, and, the kid who had the razor blade, but he went home after that. It's just weird that there are no other patients we see in this movie. And, of course, the understaffment of the hospital. You see, a few nurses and 2 doctors? The fact that it's everyone booked that day off? I don't fucking know. And the hospital being so dark and ominous, it's it shouldn't look like that at all. And of course, one of the glaring things I know some people have not touched on is the fact that Michael Myers' choice of weaponry in this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, the hammer, kick ass. The syringe, kick ass. The bread cutting knife, sure, awesome, cool. But he's walking around killing people with a scalpel now. I don't understand this. Why is Michael walking around with a scalpel? It's so fucking out of place. You just had a knife. Like, you took it from Mr. and Mrs. Elrod. What? Where did that go? Did you just leave it in the check? I guess so. But that fucking scalpel just takes me out of the movie, because it's like, why is Michael holding a scalpel? And the way he's holding it too, where he's constantly like this. I'm like, what are you doing? It's just one of the minor nitpicks. But other than that, that's practically only the big flaws I have with the movie. Now, of course, with the climax of the movie, Laurie has finally escaped Michael. Dr. Loomis has gotten to the hospital. They're protecting one another, or he's protecting her, from Michael. They go into a surgical room where they plan to fucking kill Michael or hide from him at this rate. And Michael gets shot in the eyes, which, again, stunning fucking shot. The blood tears mask, amazing. But it kind of does have something that's a little bit of a problem, which is he essentially got shot in the brain twice and didn't die. So he's practically a zombie. Okay, and then, goes for the whole swinging of the fucking scalpel and everything. And then finally, Loomis and Laurie fill this fucking room with gas. And she gets out, and Loomis lights a match, like saying, "It's time, Michael." Lights a match, and they both blow up. They both are incinerated. Until we finally see Michael walking out, just burning on fire, right? And it's such a kick-ass visual shot, too. Michael walking down this hallway on fire. Like, nothing's gonna stop him. And then he finally dies. Yes, this movie, Michael finally dies. And the madness is over. The nightmare is over. Now, of course, with a conclusion like that, a lot of people really like that. That's a good definitive ending. Especially with the fact that Dr. Loomis is essentially the Van Helsing to Michael's Dracula. He went out with his monster. And it's such a kick-ass ending. And you have to give that movie praise for such a kick-ass ending. Now, of course, a lot of people in this world love Halloween 2. I know my friend Brett, he loves Halloween 2. It's one of his favorites of the franchise as well. And I know a lot of people are big defenders of the Halloween 2 film, and they love it. They point it as their best sequel. But to some people, this movie is very much flawed. It has a lot of hiccups. It has a lot of missteps. Some of the changes that were made for this movie that just decipher and are so much more different than the first film are glaring. They're obvious. But of course, nonetheless, Halloween 2 is very much still a beloved sequel. And I know for a fact when a lot of people who come over to my place and they want to watch Halloween 2, I do like it. It's one of the films I do enjoy watching. But there are just those problems. And some of those problems I just can't get off my head. And either way, you love it or you hate it, the movie's still very much enjoyable. So, for my rating, I'm going to give Halloween 2 a 7.5 out of 10. So tell me, guys, what do you guys think of Halloween 2? Do you think it's one of the best sequels in the franchise? Do you think it's a misstep? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up and also subscribe for more spooky content this month. And also make sure you hit that bell notification so you can get notified on more videos that will be coming out this month. Other than that, guys, that's it for me. This has been the Ginger Snap Series Month of Horror-WEEN. I'm Stephen Harold, and the next video we will be talking about Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. So take care, and always remember, everyone's entitled to one good scare.